on. Real doctors, real solutions over at Metropolitan Health Group. And coming up this morning at 7:30, we will talk to Dr. Kent Lowe. Kent Lowe, longtime sports information director for the LSU basketball team. Obviously, we'll put a bow on the season with Dr. Lowe, but more importantly, we will talk about the memories and everything that has gone on over at Circle Bowl here in Baton Rouge, that after 60 years, 60-plus years of being in business, is closing their doors. Of course, you know Kent Lowe, the longtime columnist for The Advocate, who writes the bowling report weekly for The Advocate, is going to stop by and share some memories of Circle Bowl. You got a memory of Circle Bowl? I know I got a lot growing up in Baton Rouge.
Are they already closed? Is it like over?
April 1st.
April 1st?
Not an April Fool's joke. They are closing on April 1st. So we would get some memories and some stories from Dr. Lowe. Coming up here at 7:30 this morning. 8 a.m., Kim Mulkey, who is one of my favorite human beings on the planet, is going to stop by here at 8 a.m. The Baylor Bears are rolling through the NCAA tournament again. They crushed Virginia Tech last night to move on. They set up a tilt with Michigan coming up this weekend. Coach Mulkey and the Bears are the reigning national champs, obviously with no tournament last season. They were kind of in the LSU football type of situation where they were the champs until somebody knocked them off, and they're still the champs after no tournament last year. So we'll ask her thoughts going into the tournament, a lot of stuff happening at the tournament, and some stories coming out with the imbalance between the men's tournament, the women's tournament. She's a great spokesperson for her game. We will ask her some of her thoughts coming up here. Katie, it'll be your first time to talk to her. I know you're very intrigued by her athletic career.
I am.
She's from Hammond, Louisiana.
I realize that now.
And growing up, Hammond is a very prideful part of our state as far as athletics is concerned.
I didn't know that either, honestly.
Baseball proud.
Okay.
You know what I mean? A very baseball proud part of our state. And Coach Mulkey was the shortstop and the leadoff batter for her age division and the age division higher than her on the boys squad.
That's
growing
amazing.
up and was consistently the best player. I mean, like, you talk to her or you talk to anybody around that area that came out during that time, and they will tell you stories. But if you watched her play basketball, she won a national championship as a point guard for Louisiana Tech. Yeah. She won a national championship as an assistant coach on Louisiana Tech staff, and now three-time national champ with the Baylor Bears. She'll stop by here at 8 a.m. this morning as we'll talk to Coach Mulkey. We can also talk to her about anything. We'll get an update on Kramer Robertson. We'll ask her about her squad and what her thoughts are on the NCAA tournament. David Delucci, Baton Rouge native, will stop by at 8:15 as Luch will be here talking some SEC baseball. We'll get his thoughts on LSU Mississippi State. We'll get his thoughts on the overall conference as LSU traveling up to Tennessee this weekend to take on the Volunteers. And then at 8:30 this morning, Jean Paul Bourgeois, our in-house chef, will be here at 8:30 answering your questions. Women Crush Wednesday. Whit will be here at the end of hour 2 telling us about what's happening around the world of sports and some of the things that are happening on the hardwood and some of the storylines over there. So the Gridiron Show and Whitney Bro, Women Crush Wednesday, coming up here at 8:45 this morning.
When do you think we'll stop talking about LSU Mississippi State game from this past weekend? After this week, we'll be done?
I think we're already done.
Over it. Yeah, I think we're over it.
Well, you just mentioned it.
Now we got sound.
Okay.
We had sound and then it went out.
All right.
I'm saying, you start moving all these parts around,
Okay.
we're in a very
Okay.
sensitive locale over here.
All right.
What you missed was Ed Ogeron
Reset the Ogeron
plurally-
topic.
Yeah, reset. Yeah.
plurally not interviewing.
So Ogeron made comments yesterday about not hiring or not interviewing some of his hires last season, and that was something that we talked about in my former place on a post game show, and then we mentioned it on the morning show, and it got some feedback, it got some pushback, it got some reaction from a lot of people. I'm not sure what the advantage of the head coach bringing that up during this time.
God, what is it?
Like, I don't know why you would say that at this time. I always thought that he had somebody on the payroll that was supposed to be taking care of his public relations. Obviously, not
Very confident.
not around right now, because that's a simple like, hey, nah, don't bring that up right now.
We're on the
Nah,
spring ball.
It's all good. We've made the hires. We're moving on. Everybody's good. Everybody has moved on. Why bring that up now? But I like I said, the thing that I learned yesterday was I always thought that was a singular phrase, not a plural phrase. I always thought that was just on Bo Pelini. I thought it was last year's defensive coordinator that he didn't interview, and that he learned some things on the job that he was just, told himself that'll never happen again. The stories that I would routinely hear was that for an 8 o'clock meeting, Bo Pelini would come flying over those railroad tracks at 7:58. That ain't cool with Ed Ogeron. I know that. And him coming sprinting in the doors in defensive meetings at 8 o'clock or 8:01 or 8:02 some days wasn't cool. And I think that was some things that, Pelini would have probably told you in an interview process that he's not a morning person. I think that, that kind of came out, on the job. And those are things that you would learn during the interview process. The same could be said for the Matt Canada situation. So, to hear him say that yesterday, that was, again, a little surprising in the sense because you've now admitted that you've been burned by this twice, right? I mean, like, let me rewind for you when Ogeron was in the interim state as LSU's head coach, and the only thing that they were trying to do was get the job permanently, right? And going into the Florida game, they had pretty much sealed the job up permanently. And then 3.5, 4 quarters later, Darius Geis goes the wrong way out of a timeout. They get stopped on the goal line and they lose the game. And the next thing you know, Joe Oliva's shopping football coaches. So Ed Ogeron and his crew are trying to make themselves as attractive as possible by going out and getting the biggest names in the sport and tying them to Ogeron's head coach candidacy. And that was Dave Aranda, who was in-house as the defensive coordinator at the time, and Lane Kiffin, who was the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and the relationship between him and Saban was deteriorating to a point where Saban was eventually about to throw him off the team in between the national semifinal and the national championship. And Ogeron had gone to Oliva and told him and guaranteed it with a phone call from Kiffin to Oliva saying, I'm coming to LSU if you give Ed Ogeron the head coach job, and I'm going to be the offensive coordinator with him, which was a incredible coup, right? I mean, if you show up to the negotiating table with Ogeron as the head coach, as the primary recruiter, Dave Aranda calling your defense, and Lane Kiffin calling your offense, I'll listen. Okay, what you got? Well, that deal fell apart because Nick Saban and saw that it was really real and called his agent, Jimmy Sexton, who is Lane Kiffin's agent, and said, get Lane a head coaching job tonight. And Florida Atlantic called, paid the money. Next thing you know, he's in Boca Raton for the next 3 seasons. Now he's in Oxford. When that deal fell apart, LSU, Ed Ogeron, Joe Oliva looked at Ogeron's camp and said, who you got? Who's it going to be? Kiffin's out. Aranda's going to be your defensive coordinator. Who's going to be your offensive guy? Ogeron's camp goes into emergency mode and says, give me the top 3 offensive coordinators in college football right now. Give me the sexiest names in the sport that I can tie to Ogeron and sell to the administration. Matt Canada was coming off of a season where he hung 60 on Clemson. at Pittsburgh. He was a Broyles finalist, which goes to the top assistant coach in college football. That was their guy. That was the guy that they had to have because the entire sport was talking about Canada. Come to find out, Orgeron and Canada hated each other. Couldn't stand one another. They realized that 2 weeks on the job. Because Orgeron, his crew, said, Matt Canada, whatever it takes to get you to LSU, we're willing to do it. That's why he had the ungodly buyout. That's why the number next to his name was larger than it should have been. And that's why he took the LSU job, because they outbidded everybody without really going through a thorough interview process. Personalities between the head coach and the primary play caller just aren't going to, they're not going to match.
But still, why come out yesterday and say
I have
this?
no idea.
Like, where is this coming
Have no
from?
idea.
Are people going to start coming out with stuff? I mean, it's just odd.
Have no idea. Have no idea why you would come out yesterday and say mistakes from the past when talking about successes of today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're talking about how good the coaches are and how they're fitting in, why would you highlight
egregious error,
a misstep
In the midst of everything else going on.
Absolutely. I just thought that it was. Look, man, it's not. It's not. Sound the alarms, ring the bells, and it's melt mode. I
No,
just thought
it's
it was
just strange.
It was just a PR move that was very avoidable. You know what I mean?
Don't say it.
Why?
Yeah. There you go.
What's the purpose? Why would you say and bring attention to that in the sense of it's really and truly it's TMI. It's too much information. And I think you want, in our position, especially from somebody who is a fringe fan with a microphone, or in the media covering sports, you want your players, your coaches, your subjects, right, to be transparent, to be open, to be honest with you. I think Orgeron at some points and sometimes is a little too honest, and he's a little too transparent. And in that role, you don't have to be careful of that. You just have to. Last year he got in the same situation. Last summer he got into the same situation by making a comment that he was probably going for a little bit of shock value on, but that even yesterday in the press conference he was making points to. Remember last summer when he said that the defense is, I don't know how he phrased it, but what he said was what he was saying was the defense was a lot better at that point than they were within the season. And this was at a time when they had yet to play a game. They had yet to really be on the practice field, or they had yet to be tested. And you were coming off of a national championship season into which you got guys like Grant Delpit and Patrick Queen, and the list goes on of guys that are now playing on Sunday off of that team, Rashard Lawrence. And that was a statement even yesterday when he was talking about some of the things that he saw with the offense and the defense. And he stopped himself and he said, by no means am I saying that they're better, but I'm just saying that I like what I see, because he realized that was a misstep that he had to continue answer questions about last season. I mean, how many times in a post game did somebody from the Advocate or a local reporter say, remember that comment that you made in the summer about the defense being better than they were last year? How do you feel about them now? Or what made you say that then when they're really this bad? What did you see in the summer that is not translating over into the fall? This may be a comment where, if things don't work out and everybody believes that they are heading in the right direction now and that he's got the right guys and they went through the process and he talked to everybody, he interviewed everybody. But if it does go sideways, this is another comment that you can kind of recycle and dig back up in our industry and say, hey, remember back in March when you were saying that you didn't interview these guys? Is it maybe why this is not working out in this sense?
Totally.
It
Carlos
just-
Molina in the bunker said perhaps someone is about to leave the coaching staff.
Maybe.
Which that's what I would think too, with a comment like that.
Maybe so.
Foreshadowing.
Hopefully it is, because hopefully there's a purpose behind it.
There has to be.
You know
a
what I
purpose
mean?
behind
Like
it.
I would.
I don't think there is.
I don't think
man.
there You don't is.
think there's
He
a
got
purpose
little
behind it?
comfortable
I
up
don't
there.
think there is either.
Thought he was kind of making a joke. I mean, this plays. If we win the
bad
national
joke.
championship, and you could bring it up then, like after the year, it's like, oh God, obviously, never going to make the mistake I made in 2019 over 2020 again. But to say it now is just, I think it's kind of a Freudian slip, a little TMI, a little too much information. I don't think he has a plan.
TBD.
That wasn't like a planned comment.
No, I agree with you.
We'll see.
I agree with you. All right, remember Daily here. We're brought to you by Go Chevrolet, online at GEAUXchevrolet.com. You can stop in and see Nick Richard, Lee Carney, and the crew down there in LaPlace, Louisiana. Also want to give a shout-out to our guy, Blake Abear, who is now the official lawn man over here at the undisclosed location. We
Who's
sent him
that?
through the process. He went through. He was vetted. He has signed the confidentiality. He knows where we're located. He came through and made the first cut at the undisclosed location. Place looks fantastic. We just can't show you pictures from it. But call our guy Blake. He's great. 485-8022. It's a 225 area code. 485-8022 as Blake Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, as he's taking care of us. 485-8022. And then yesterday, the other news around South Louisiana was Jameis Winston and his media availability on a Tuesday, where he was talking to some local reporters, and Winston was talking about his relationship with Drew Brees and got emotional. And I think this was surprising if you saw some of the social media reaction around this with some people that were there. I was watching and following Nick Underhill, who is my guy in covering the Saints. Underhill is the best at New Orleans football. But just even kind of reading some of his reaction and hearing the surprise in his voice. But here is Jameis Winston yesterday meeting with a gaggle of reporters on a Zoom call, and he is talking about his relationship with Drew Brees over the last year.
Well, that moment to me was like being able to have an entire season with Drew Brees was a dream of mine. Like, and for him to put his arm around me, or just give me any encouraging words after I saw the resilience, the passion, the way that he went and approached every single day. But that to even be a story, like I was touched by that, because he doesn't even know how much he means to me and my family, for real. I'm not gonna share what he shared with me. I don't even remember, but it touched me. Having a chance to play in the playoffs after, like, winning a playoff game, like getting a chance to throw a touchdown in the playoffs. Like, I love football. That's all I've done my entire life. And someone that I look up to, that I admire, that I actually could touch, was my teammate, and I had a chance to serve him. Like, man, I'm speechless to that. Like, that really gets me emotional, because I really love Drew Brees. Like, I don't think he understands. I know my wife do. I know my family do, but
I love the cut.
Oh my God,
I
that
just don't know
brings
what he's talking
tears
about.
to my eyes, though. That's the
I
first
know,
time I've heard
it does.
that. Like,
and I'm a crier.
God.
I'm a crier. When I see other people cry,
You're
it'll
passionate.
choke me
Yeah, I
up.
know.
I will cry. I can cry like in the middle of speeches when I'm talking about stuff. Think about my
that's
son.
heartfelt.
I just don't know what he's talking about.
And I think that's
Well,
what
he
makes it
loves
so
Drew
raw.
Brees.
Yeah.
He didn't know where he was going to go and where he was ending up, but he knew he wanted to talk about Drew.
Is there more?
Yeah.
There's
We
more
got
sound
another
bites.
one. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we
keep
got
it going.
we got
Keep it
Oh,
going.
God, there's more?
Yeah, there's more. Keep it going.
y'all don't understand the impact that him and a lot of other quarterbacks had on me as a quarterback growing up in Bessemer, Alabama. Y'all don't never understand, like, a lot of people don't understand that human aspect to an athlete. But nah, man. Just know I love Drew Brees for real. Like, I really do.
I mean,
We got that part.
powerful, bro.
Passion.
Powerful. I don't think Winston has ever been charged with being unpassionate.
He loves football.
But he's always even when he makes mistakes, he's going.
He's 100%.
He's going
He's
at
all
it.
in.
I mean, and I don't mean to laugh at that, because I know that he's done some things in his past that are not funny. by any means. But his passion is something that I think is what his buy-in quality is. That's when you watch Jameis play, when you hear him speak, his endearing quality is his passion. Like, you can listen to that a minute and a half soundbite and you can be confused on what he's talking about, but what you take away is like what Katie said. I mean, I was like, I don't know what he said. He said he loves Drew Brees. That's what he's saying.
That's what he's saying.
And he is.
Is he always this passionate? Like, I've never heard him talk like this.
He's got a very preacher-like quality to him when he speaks. You know what I mean? Where he's very direct in what he's saying, and I think sometimes that could be, sometimes that can be perceived as aggressive or intense, or that can be perceived as passionate. That was passionate.
Wow.
And
I mean,
if you want to know who Jameis Winston is, take that 1.5 minute soundbite. It goes all over the place, but he just means well. He's trying his best to be a leader and everything that comes like being the quarterback. But you're always on a ride with Jameis. It's up and down. It's a roller coaster. But he's taking you somewhere. We just don't know where we're going.
That's right.
But you're going to enjoy the ride.
That's right. And he's talented enough to bring you somewhere like really cool.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, all right, just hang on, grip tight.
Yeah, Jameis might know a shortcut, but I don't know if we're going to get where we're going, but we're taking it.
Pierce Powers says that he's talking about the end of the playoff loss. Yeah, I know the scenario he's talking about. Just the words in which he's describing to get to the point where he's just saying, I love Drew Brees. I think that's and I think it's also a great representation of Winston when somebody's like, what did he say in that moment? He's like, I don't even remember.
I don't even know.
You know what I mean?
Like, right now.
I don't even know, but I love the guy. And I hope that he succeeds. I hope that he succeeds in an NFL system, and I think there is probably no better scenario than working alongside Sean Payton in an offense that Payton has proven that he can develop to your skill set. There's not an offense that your talent has to jam fit into and have to be able to execute. He can adapt to what your skill set is and make the play calling advantage that. So I hope it works out. I think it'll work out because of Payton.
Do well?
I think he will. I mean, I didn't know why he wasn't the second option when Brees got hurt last season.
This is just me speculating, but I think they kind of wanted to keep him under wraps. If he comes in and plays 5 games, goes 5-0, and looks great, then you got a lot of other bidders on the table when he gets a 1-year deal.
I think that's probably that's probably the exact scenario on why they didn't want to showcase him during those 5 games that Brees was out, was that they kind of wanted to hide him. They didn't want people to know what they had. They didn't want maybe people to think, hey, we got the future in-house. We don't have to go draft or look for Brees' successor. He's right here. And he's a former number 1 pick. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's a guy that's thrown 35 touchdowns in the league as soon as, as recent as 2 years ago. Now he's also thrown 30 interceptions to go alongside that. So you've got to work on some decision-making and put him in the right position to succeed. But talent, he checks every single box. And it obviously made an impact on him playing alongside Brees and in the program for a year.
Obviously.
So, it's
if he's good, New Orleans is going to be a blast.
Look out, bro.
Yeah, for
look
sure.
out.
Because if he gets a little confidence, he already is confident for basically no reason right now. And if he gets a little, a couple of games where he's throwing 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, maybe an interception, we're rolling 4-1, he's going to be in front of that microphone a lot.
Fantastic funky bunch inside of the bunker. The exact quote from Winston yesterday. This is classic, man. I think this is great. I'm not going to share what he said. I don't remember what he said, but it meant a lot to me.
Poor guy.
That's kind of like a Pete Weber. Like, who do you think you are? I am. What?
Right. Who do you think you are? I am.
Huh? Nothing.
What'd I say?
Right.
I blacked out.
Don't ask me again. Daily here. We're brought to you by Johnson Spillers Dentistry. Get in touch with Dr. Chad Spillers and Dr. Johnson over there. They're helping us out with our March Madness bracket challenge giveaways. If you're in first place, we got some teeth whitening and some Botox to hand
on
out.
Set.
Yes,
Dr. Spillers.
Botox
We'll
on
take
set.
it.
Here
I'll
from
be your guinea pig.
Dr. Johnson and Dr. Spillers. 2 locations, one in Gonzales, one in Baton Rouge. The one in Baton Rouge is located on Perkins Road in between Segan and Perkins, in between Segan and Bluebonnet on Perkins Road, and then out in Prepara Avenue in Gonzales. All of your dentist needs. If you need pediatric dentistry for one of the kids, get in touch with Johnson and Spillers. And like we said, if you want some Botox, they can help you out with that as well. Online, johnsonspillers.com. Great social media. Find them on Facebook and Instagram. Baton Rouge location and Gonzales location. We will talk to Dr. Kent Lowe, longtime sports information director, coming up for LSU basketball, as Dr. Lowe was back in the tournament with the basketball bunch, who was knocked out by Michigan just a couple of days ago. We'll get his thoughts on the season. We'll get his thoughts on a shrine in Baton Rouge closing their doors after 60-plus years in business. Circle Bowl. Dr. Lowe is the longtime columnist over at The Advocate who writes the bowling report over there. And one of the great venues to bowl here in town is closing their doors after 60-plus years in service. We'll talk to Dr. Lowe next here on the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet.
That's right. Who do you think you are? I am.
How confident do you feel about your streaming service? Do you know if you have the right gear or not? Is Facebook and YouTube consistently letting you down? I now present to you WSN Live. WSN can help your church, your team, your community bring everyone together for one streaming service where there's no more equipment guessing, broadcasts that your audience will absolutely love, and a support team that you will have around the clock. WSN Live. Can you be assured that the air and surfaces in your home are clean, sanitized, and safe for you and your entire family? You can now by logging on to Valera.com/Jordy Culotta, where you, your home, your office, your family can be protected 24/7 with active pure technology. This NASA-based science has proven 99.9% reduction of airborne SARS-2 and COVID-19 virus in just 3 minutes. Log on now to Valera.com/Jordy Culotta.
Have a late night and can't make it for the Jordy Culotta Show at 7 a.m.? No worries. Catch us on demand on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Women are changing the game on and off the field. This week's episode of The Gridiron Show with Whitney Bro features Saints beat writer for the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com, Amy Just. Learn more about the amazing woman who digs deep into the stories surrounding the Houdat Nation. Catch our interview with Amy on the Gridiron Show YouTube channel. We're also giving away 20 units of Botox, courtesy of Johnson and Spillers Dentistry, to one lucky winner. You can learn more about how to win on episode 3 of the Gridiron Show with Whitney Bro podcast, now streaming on all podcasting platforms.
Welcome back into the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet. Stick around in the second hour. Kim Mulkey, head coach of the Baylor Women Bears, will stop by here as her crew is moving on in the NCAA tournament, reigning national champs, and another Big 12 championship for Coach Mulkey, as she'll stop by at 8 a.m. and talk a little bit about it. 8:15, David Delucci of the SEC Network going to talk some baseball, and we're answering your food questions with Jean Paul Bourgeois coming up at 8:30. And it's also Women Crush Wednesday, which means Whitney and her crew will be in for the Gridiron Show. Remember to follow the Gridiron Show on YouTube. Log on and follow their communication, as you can get a new Gridiron Show every Monday. Okay, a long time, a great historian of LSU sports, and a great resource for all of us here in the Baton Rouge area is Dr. Kent Lowe, longtime sports information director, part of the LSU communication staff. since '88. He's beginning or in his 34th year with the Sports Information Department. He's also a longtime award-winning bowling columnist for the Advocate in Baton Rouge. I believe he's held that spot for just under 30 years, right around 28 years. Dr. Kent Lowe has been writing that report. Circle Bowl is closing here in town, which is a shrine to not only the locals but to the bowling community. And looking forward to getting his thoughts on that. But first, want to check in and get an update on basketball with the doc. Good morning, sir. How are you?
How are you, Jordy? Good to talk with you.
Always, yes, sir. A very successful tournament run for Will Wade and the crew comes to a halt a couple of nights ago in Indianapolis versus a number one seed in Michigan. Kent, what has it been like this last year handling the sports information for a basketball program and dealing with the pandemic like everybody has been?
Well, I think the thing I've said a lot of times is that when we start the season in November, my original thought was, okay, we're going to start this thing. I'm not real sure how we're going to finish this thing. And, the season was played. The SEC played like 93% of their games. We got to a tournament, and there is an NCAA tournament being played. I mean, there's been a game that wasn't played, but I mean, I think we've got to a point now where you can say the thing looks like it's going to finish as it needs to. And I think that's the most exciting thing you can say is we're going to probably crown a basketball champion this year. It had to be hard for the LSU players. It had to be hard for the LSU coaching staff. I wasn't as closely associated or with the team as much during the season because I didn't want the headline to be some night the SID causes the game to be canceled because he got COVID or something. But so it's been different. It's certainly been not the easiest season, but in the end, it was played. It was a very good season for LSU. Back-to-back tournaments. Back-to-back wins in tournaments for the first time since 86, 87. So, I think it was a very good year for this team, and these guys deserve all the credit and success they've had this year.
What was the experience like in Indianapolis in the NCAA tournament with all that you guys had to do with the quarantine, the practice schedule, the traveling from Nashville to Indy? What was that like on the group?
Well, I think, it depends on the individual. And again, to me personally, it was, okay, fine, we're going to have to do it this way, but we're going to play. We're getting the chance to play. Now, I don't know how the individual players thought about it. I don't, this group just kind of does its thing. And it was, I would say if you're a player, probably the worst part was the first couple of days when, you were in quarantine and they're bringing food to your room and you're really not supposed to leave or anything like that. I'm sure that wasn't real pleasant, but like Coach Wade said in a couple of interviews, I think a lot of these guys thought about it, brought like Xboxes and things like that to keep them occupied for a couple of days. But I will say this, having the teams where you could walk to the convention center where there were like 12 practice courts where you could practice, and do your thing in a private setting and walk back to your hotel. I think that turned out to be a pretty good thing to be able to play in Indianapolis at all the venues. I've heard a lot of people who got to play at Hinkle Fieldhouse, how much that experience meant to them. And I think, as you see, as was pointed out last night on one of the women's broadcasts, fans are really going to get into this thing of having the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, the Final Four at the same location. So this may be something the NCAA may want to think about for their fans going forward.
Dr. Lowe joining us here. Dr. Kent Lowe, Sports Information Director, LSU Basketball, also a longtime columnist for The Advocate, writing about bowling. Can you talk about the accomplishments and the success of the program the last couple of years, the last 3 seasons specifically, where LSU is leading the SEC in regular season wins, a 3-time tournament appearance program if last season's tournament is not called off, and just the success that the program is experiencing right now from your point of view, who has seen so many seasons up close?
Well, I think the one word you can use for the program is consistency. And I think if we all remember when Coach Wade was hired, that was one of the words that he used in his opening remarks, that he wanted to make LSU a consistent program in the national sphere. And that has certainly happened. Back-to-back tournaments, whether you consider 2020, that certainly would have been a third one, but actual back-to-back tournaments in a long time, as I said, wins in tournaments since 87. More importantly, you're in the SEC tournament finals for the first time since 93. Which is an area that LSU has not done well in. You mentioned the 3 straight years being a top 4 seed, the 39 wins in regular season play, 3 postseason tournaments in the 4 years of the program, and it would have been a 4th if it played last year. But there's just a consistency to this program. There's a foundation, and there are levels being built on that foundation. And consistency is something that this program has really needs, and there have been great highs over the years, but there have also been great lows over the years. And to get a consistent level of play in this program is something Coach Wade has strived for and continues to strive for. And now the next step must be taken to continue that consistency as we move forward.
You mentioned the highs and the lows that the program has experienced. I think that would probably be a great description of the 11 and a half years that John Brady spent on the sidelines, that you were obviously working alongside him as the SID. Now he is in a role where he is describing LSU basketball to radio listeners. And Kent, in our trade, and you understand our business as good as anyone, that job title as a color commentator for a basketball radio broadcast, in my opinion, is one of the toughest titles in our business, because you have to paint a picture in a 3 to 4 second window and pass it right back to the play-by-play guy. And Blair and Brady have chemistry that I think you search for in the business for a long time, but they just have it naturally. Can you talk about Brady in that role now, and kind of how you've seen him become this just incredibly likable figure everywhere in the SEC and here locally, while now being in that position?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of that is the two of them together when they're on air. I mean, these are two guys who really like each other, and I think sometimes that has to happen if you're going to be a good pairing on the radio. I don't think you can not like your color guy or not have a relationship with him and then suddenly walk in and put the headsets on and do it to a good level. And I think that's, something that is very good. Coach Brady has proven to be a tremendous analyst on the radio. He can state the points that viewers can understand, and I think it's a very good matchup. And for him to be associated with the program again, much like, Sonny Smith does color on the Auburn broadcast, Richard Williams did it for several years for Mississippi State. I think it's a great thing that, a guy who, is a former head coach is able to come back and still be a part of the program. And Coach Wade talked about that, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago when Jock did his podcast with Coach Brady and asked Coach Wade about Coach Brady. And, he's been very willing and accepting to having Coach Brady still a part of the program. He, runs stuff off of him. He misses having Coach Brady at practice, especially when we're on the road, to bounce things off of him. So, it's just been a good relationship, and it's great to have him a part of this program.
Kent, did I read correctly? Have you never rolled a 300 game in bowling? Have you never done that?
No.
But the closest you've ever done it was at Circle Bowl, right?
Yeah, I had a 286 one night. Yeah.
Tell me what Circle Bowl means to bowling enthusiasts like yourself. You've been writing a column for The Advocate for nearly 30 years. I believe it's 28 years that has won awards. But Circle Bowl was announced yesterday that is closing here locally after 62 years in business. I have got many stories of growing up. I had birthday parties there, went to birthday parties there, would just go bowl there growing up. But for somebody like you who loves the sport like you do, what does that place mean?
Well, it's certainly the end of a legacy here, and it's hard to, as I kind of tried to explain in the column this week. Circle Bowl is what you would call your old style bowling place. I mean, it's not an entertainment center like so many bowling centers are that are being built today. It was built 62 years ago for bowling, and that was its primary purpose. But a guy named John Sneed, who came in here and helped open what was the old Metro and Plank Bowl and Circle Bowl back all those years ago, turned it into a place where people wanted to come and have fun and family fun, but also tournaments, good league bowling. And Sue Bro, who has passed away, was the manager there for a number of years. And what a lot of people don't know is that they started a tournament back in 1973 called the Baskin-Robbins self-sponsored. That tournament is still running today. Wow. After some 50 years, and it's held 3 times a year, brings bowlers in from like 5 or 6 different states, pays out, 3,000, 4,000 to the winner. And it's just a singles tournament where anybody with a handicap, 200 average bowlers win. Everybody is involved in it. And, it's sad to see a place close. You hate to see any business close, Jordy, and in anything, that. And it's just a tough thing for the sport and a legacy. And luckily, All-Star Lanes and Premier are picking up a lot of the leagues that were bowling there. So that's a good thing of houses working together. But it's just sad to see a place you spent a lot of time in and know a lot of the people that have worked there over the years that it's closing. And there, as you said, there are a lot of memories people have had, and it's been really fun to look on Facebook and see a lot of people's responses to the closing.
Absolutely. I mean, being from here and being a local to Baton Rouge, I mean, it was really kind of a staple of the city as in my childhood. Yeah. I mean, when we would birthday parties or bowling events was always there, or Don Carter's. I mean, it was just between those two venues, and to see it closing the doors is definitely just a sad day because of the history that it brings. How much of effect?
Well,
go ahead.
There's a lot of adult bowlers today who grew up at Circle Bowl whose kids now were bowling at Circle Bowl.
Wow. How much of an effect did the last year have on bowling leagues, bowling, the actual sport, like the local draw to bowling?
As far as leagues, it shut down centers for, what was it, about probably almost 4 months. And a lot of those leagues did finally finish in the summer, their fall, winter seasons. But I think a lot of people didn't come back. There are some bowlers who did not return. League bowlers did not return. I don't think leagues are quite as big this year as they were last year. Tournaments like there was no city tournament this year in this 2021 bowling season. Some state tournaments are returning. Things are slowly getting back to normal, but they took a big hit at Circle during the pandemic being closed. They lost the last 6 weeks of the 2020 Southern Bowling Congress tournament that was going to be held at Circle, which teams from like 7 different states were going to come in and bowl during that time. And so that was a big hit for them. I mean, they've had some issues after the flood in 2016, and it just all kind of was, to use the phrase, the perfect storm that just kept it where what the other Malco Center houses were making in profits, like in Lafayette and Gonzales, couldn't sustain the situation Circle Bowl was having.
Kent, last one. We'll get you out of here. Appreciate your time so much on this Wednesday. What does the schedule look like for you once the LSU basketball season concludes? When do you start looking towards and starting to compile your information for the next season?
Well, I mean, that always happens. I mean, that always is kind of an ongoing thing.
Right.
We'll go in and start, wrapping up all the marks and records for this year, and then we'll start thinking about getting bios done of all the players, to complete their season and whether they come back or not. And then you start working on recruits' bios once they get here and all, and then it just kind of keeps going. But, we'll be involved in some other things that are going on. We've got, baseball, softball, all the sports that are taking place. So it'll be a little quieter for a couple of weeks, and then we're back into figuring out what's going on with all the spring sports and seeing where we can help out and keep moving things forward.
Dr. Lowe, keep them between the gutters. Thank you very much for the time this morning, and we appreciate you stopping by.
All right, Jordy. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. There is Dr. Kent Lowe checking in from LSU basketball this morning. Also a great historian and writer, has been for a long time, as he has been on the bowling beat for 28 years at the
Invented it.
at the Advocate. He did.
Do we have time for me to tell a quick bowling story?
Please.
I had
Absolutely.
a mad crush on a guy in high. I used to be a pretty decent bowler, actually. My brother
When you
and I
say
would
decent
bowl.
bowler, you mean what?
Triple digits?
I mean, I don't know. I just bowled well. I mean, like, I didn't keep up with
Kept it
something.
straight.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I bowled, and I was okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll go bowling on, like, a group date, had a mad crush on this guy. Got my fingers stuck in the ball and threw myself down the lane
No way.
in front of him.
No way.
Yeah. Like,
No
I
way.
was rearing back for, like, a good, yeah.
Like the cartoon.
Went down, yeah. I
Like
mean,
slid down the
yeah,
lane?
Yeah.
Did you have a skirt on?
No.
Talk about the first date.
It was terrible.
Oh
terrible.
my
So
God.
I had like
First
a
place
complex.
his mind goes.
Well, the first
I
date.
know, like what?
First date.
No, I was a group date. No, we were bowling. I'm not going to bowl in a skirt. Who bowls in a skirt?
She is serious about her bowling, dude.
Anyway, so I had a complex after that. Like, I couldn't bowl. Like, I could not bowl after that. Like, it was all in my head. So when I went to college at Mississippi State, I joined the Bulldog Bowling League to try to get past it. I swear to God, I did. Joined it to try to get past it. My friends were like, "What are you doing?"
The complex was so bad.
So bad. I joined the bowling, try to get past it. They kicked me out. They were like, "You're terrible. Like, you're not bringing anything to the team. What are you doing here?"
The Rick and Keel of bowling.
I mean, I'm scared.
True
Okay,
story.
just give me a shot.
True story.
Where's
That
that
is
guy now?
crazy.
Where's that guy now?
Yeah.
I think he lives in Texas.
Oh,
I'm
you know,
not
maybe
going
I
to
should
say
go
his name.
bowling.
There are too many people that would get in my DMs if I said his name.
Daily, we're brought to you by Elevate Treatment and Legacy Center. Remember, over here in Baton Rouge, drug and rehab, drug and alcohol rehab in Baton Rouge. Elevate is dedicated to treating patients who are battling drug and alcohol addiction. Their goal is to guide you in your steps towards recovery and help you achieve and maintain sobriety. Their treatment center is based in Baton Rouge. They provide treatment of addiction disorders and behavioral illnesses in adults. This is a tough conversation, whether you're having it with yourself or whether you're having it with a loved one. Learn all about the program and services online for Elevate Treatment and Legacy Center. It is online at ELEV, the number 8, treatment.com. So that's elevatetreatment.com is where you can find them online. They're also on social media. But make the call today if you are just looking for information or you want to take the step towards cleaning up and getting into Elevate, who is helping you battling with drug and alcohol addiction. ElevateTreatment.com. All right, coming up in the second hour today, we're going to talk to Kim Mulkey, who is the Baylor women's head basketball coach. Missed the boat a couple of times down here in Baton Rouge on missing out on Kim Mulkey, who is, in my opinion, she is the dominant coach in her sport. Obviously, Gino Auriemma at UConn would be her rival, but I think that she is one of the best sports in sports. Forget women's college basketball. She is the best in her trade. She's one of the best leaders in our country. In fact, when there was talk of LSU's athletic director seat moving on and turning over when Joe Oliva was on the job, my first recommendation, my first name on the list was Kim Mulkey. I don't know if she'd accept that job. I don't know if, but now it's been taken by Scott Woodward. But at the time, I think that's who she is. I think she is a leader. She's an incredible leader. She's been a leader her entire life. She's the only person in women's college basketball to win a national championship as a player, assistant coach, and as a head coach. She won her third national title with Baylor just in 2019. She won her 9th Big 12 title this past season. She was a positive. She tested positive for COVID during the season. Her team's games were suspended for over 2 weeks. The showdown between UConn and Baylor was canceled in the regular season. So there's a lot to talk to with Coach Mulkey. In fact, if you've kept up with the NCAA tournaments, both the women and the men, the women have gone and really brought a lot of issues to Mark Emmert's doorstep in the NCAA about the imbalance on facilities, on weight rooms, on everything that goes into putting in this tournament. And now they've got the NCAA.
They've responded. NCAA's responded well.
I mean, they had no choice.
I know.
They had no choice.
They did a little tour of like their weight room.
Yeah,
I mean, it's legit. Like
they had no choice but to respond because of the way that the women had called them out. And
well, they should have been.
They should have been. And Kim Mulkey has one of the loudest and most forceful voices in that sport. And she was backing up her players and everybody within that game. And we will talk to her in a couple of minutes about some of those conversations and some of that communication. And if you want to talk about transparent, you want to talk about honest and direct, tune into the next 4 minutes as Coach Mulkey she hits you right in the face with facts. Every time she stops in, she's worth great sound bites, but she's got great information, and always appreciate her time. She'll be here at 8 o'clock. David Delucci will be here at 8:15 talking SEC baseball. Chef Jean Paul Bourgeois will be here at 8:30 talking food. And then Whitney and Abby will be here at the end of the 8 o'clock hour for WCW, our Women Crush Wednesday, talking about the Gridiron Show. In fact, I believe it was last week where WCW was the Women Crush Wednesday. The crush was Kim Mulkey.
Yeah.
Yep. So she'll be here in a couple of minutes as we start hour 2. Quick moving first hour for you in the books. Appreciate Dr. Kent Lowe for stopping by.
I love the way he says Mississippi State. I want that soundbite.
Yes. Well, his voice is, I mean, just iconic.
Iconic.
Everybody in the bunker is really
iconic.
digging it.
A mix between Bill Cosby and what Will Ferrell doing Harry Carey.
Yes.
Yes, Harry Carey. That's exactly
if
what I was thinking.
If spare ribs was Eatafel, I know I would.
Hour 2 coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Ghost Chevrolet. Come back with us. How confident do you feel about your streaming service? Do you know if you have the right gear or not? Is Facebook and YouTube consistently letting you down? I now present to you WSN Live. WSN can help your church, your team, your community bring everyone together for one streaming service where there's no more equipment guessing, broadcasts that your audience will absolutely love, and a support team that you will have around the clock. WSN Live. Can you be assured that the air and surfaces in your home are clean, sanitized, and safe for you and your entire family? You can now by logging on to Valera.com/Jordy Culotta, where you, your home, your office, your family can be protected 24/7 with active pure technology. This NASA-based science has proven 99.9% reduction of airborne SARS-2 and COVID-19 virus in just 3 minutes. Log on now to Valera.com/Jordy Culotta.
Have a late night and can't make it for the Jordy Culotta Show at 7 a.m.? No worries. Catch us on demand on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Go Chevrolet is under new management, but it's the same old familiar names that you know here from the area. Lee Carney and Nick Richard are up and running in LaPlace, Louisiana, and they want you to stop in today. But if you can't, they'll make it easy for you. They'll come to you. Log online to GoChevrolet.com. That's GEAUX Chevrolet.com. Go Chevrolet is conveniently located on Airline Highway in LaPlace, Louisiana. Shop all the inventory, whether it's new or pre-owned, at GoChevrolet.com. That's GEAUX Chevrolet.com. Dr. James Johnson and Dr. Chad Spillers of Johnson and Spillers Dentistry, with 2 locations, one in Gonzales and one in Baton Rouge between Segan Lane and Bluebonnet, offer everything from ceramic crowns to pediatric dentistry, dental cleanings, Botox, extractions. They're online at johnsonspillers.com. Located in Gonzales and in Baton Rouge, seeing both new patients and existing patients. Log online to johnsonspillers.com.
If you missed a show, you can always check out our podcast, brought to you by RMB Builders, on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you can listen to podcasts.
All right, welcome back in here to the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet. Quick move in first hour. Appreciate the interaction. Remember, all of our podcasts here on the Jordy Culotta Show is brought back to you by RMB Builders. Check out Rhett Bourgeois and his crew, 921-7062, or online at rmb-builders.com for a custom-made home, remodel, restoration. If you need corporate, commercial work or residential work, Rhett Bourgeois and the crew can handle it. Last night, the Baylor Bears were rolling. The reigning national champs looked like it as they beat up on Virginia Tech, and they are moving on to another round of the NCAA tournament as Coach Kim Mulkey and her crew, 90-48 winners last night, as Moon Urson had 21 points. DeJohnny Carrington had 21 points as well last night. All-American forward Nalissa Smith had 15, and the Lady Bears shot 50% from the field as they looked really good out and moving last night. That sets up a tilt with Michigan coming up this weekend as the Bears are moving on, and their head coach, who we recognize in her 21st season at Baylor, 9 out of the last 10 Big 12 championships, 3-time national championship, including the last time they played this tournament. The Baylor Bears were the winners. And one of the great leaders in our country. Forget basketball coaches. She's the best at what she does, but she's one of the phenomenal leaders that our country offers. And she is here with us this morning from Baylor, the women's head basketball coach and Louisiana native, Coach Kim Mulkey, joining us here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Good morning. Nice win last night, Coach.
Good morning. Now, you know I would only wake up this early after a big win for some big old guy from Louisiana.
Yes, I do, man. Yes, I do. An Italian at that. So we are very...
You got that right.
We are very very thankful as always. Coach, can you take me through this season? Because it seems like you and your ladies have experienced all of it. You had COVID. Your team's activities were suspended for a time during the regular season. You captured another championship in your conference, and now here you are playing in March. What has this been like this season for you?
You know, it seems like it has taken forever to get to this point, but let me back up with you a little bit on the resiliency of my basketball team. You mentioned Moon Urson as one of the leading scorers last night. For those of you in Louisiana, she's from Destrehan, and so she's just a phenomenal player, but she's a wonderful person, and I'm so happy for her. Moon Urson and our starting point guard, Dee Dee Richards, those young ladies had a collision in practice on our very first scrimmage on a Saturday morning. Moon and Dee Dee were both going for a loose ball up in the air. And Moon, if you look at her, you can tell she's built like a little linebacker. She hit her in the pelvis area full speed. And Dee Dee did like a 360 in the air, landed, caught herself and landed. But I'm leading to the story on the resiliency of my team. Little did we know that when the trainer got to Moon, or the doctor was there actually, the doctor got to Moon, she got up and came to me and said, I'm good to go. But, she ended up having a concussion. But Dee Dee Richards ended up having something I've never seen in basketball in all my years of coaching and playing. She had a spinal cord contusion or an injury. She did not sever the spinal cord in any way, but the blunt trauma to her area left her paralyzed from the basically waist down. And I've never seen anything like that. And so we took her to all the specialists, and they said, you see this lot with car accidents where they get thrown from the vehicle, and that she will get her feeling back. So you need to go look at the video of that if you've never seen it. It was traumatic for all of us. So she comes back, and then we get hit with COVID, as everybody in the country has. And, we were on pause for a little while. Games were canceled. We did not play 6 of our scheduled basketball games this year. 4 of the 6 were against ranked opponents, which hurt us in the seeding of the NCAA tournament. We lost games like the UConn game in Waco. We lost games against Oregon and 2 more that would have been played in the preseason NIT. But these young ladies just kept practicing. They were very thankful for everything and every day. And here we are today, guys. And, we're on a roll. We're playing good. And, yesterday, I've been doing it a long time, 36 years in coaching. And yesterday's defensive performance in the NCAA tournament at this stage was as phenomenal and as impressive to me as anything I've ever seen.
It seems cliche in our business to say it and ask questions to you all that are in it, but you always want your team playing right at the right time, right? And watching you play last night, it seems like your group is not only physically in the right spot with the way that they dominated 50% from the floor offensively last night, and you just complimenting their defensive effort, but mentally they looked very comfortable in where they are. You've got to like where your group is here heading into another Sweet 16.
Well, I do, and I think that I am impressed with their approach to being in a bubble. Guys, we have been in this hotel since Tuesday night. Now, we get to move to another hotel today because the Sweet 16 teams will all be in one hotel. But because you have no playbook to follow, because we've never been in a pandemic, because we've never been in a bubble, I didn't know how my players would approach being locked in a room, basically, at 20, 21 years of age, and they have just been so good about it. There's been a lot of controversy with the women's tournament here on what we don't have versus what the men have. My players have never complained. They see it. They observe it. They take pictures. But their approach is just as I told them. We focus on basketball. There's a time and a place to fight those battles.
You were pretty loud about the NCAA tournament when you were asked about it a couple of months ago when you said, do you believe it will happen? And you said it'll absolutely happen because of the almighty dollar. And then you get to San Antonio and you see the facilities and what's going on around you. I know that you were focused on basketball, but what has been your message to your team?
Well, and, anytime you make a statement like I did, that is my opinion. Some agree with it, some don't agree with it, and that's fine. That's what makes our country so great. People have to work. People have to make a living. People have to put food on the table, and the NCAA and its operation is no different than anybody else. So that was my answer, is that, guys, people are going to work. The state of Texas has been open since August. High school football games were played. And right or wrong, people still strive to take care of their families. And that was my message. I still stand by what I say. And you see that it is true. The NCAA, with the differences on what young people are seeing on social media and what the men have and what the women have, honestly, it probably boils down a little bit to money too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Or you're trying to cut corners and not think that people aren't going to notice those things. But Jordy, listen, man, you're talking to a woman at 12 years of age that got kicked off of an all-star baseball field because I was a girl. Not only did I get kicked off of the field, I wasn't even allowed to sit in the dugout. So that's a story that all of those in Tangipahoa Parish and the surrounding areas that remember me growing up there, I've dealt with it. But I choose not to be bitter. I mean, I'm a divorced woman. How many divorced women are bitter out there? That's life. And listen, you have to keep living, and you have to approach it in such a way that make a difference in this life, because there are no guarantees that you'll have tomorrow.
My favorite. She's here, Kim Mulkey, the best Baylor Bears as they're heading towards another Sweet 16 after last night's dominant performance versus Virginia Tech. What do you see when you look ahead to Michigan? What's the challenge?
Well, very well coached. Kim, their coach, another Kim, is one of my favorite people. They've come to our place in the playoffs many times, and I love her family. I've given her kids Easter baskets when they've been in the playoffs at our place. I just love her to death, and I watched some of their game with Tennessee. Obviously, we were on the way to our game, but I can tell you they're very, very well coached. And they have one of the best players in the country in Hillsman, and it'll be two teams that will battle it out.
How's our boy? Update on Kramer.
Oh man, would you like to know? I'm up here at 8:00 in the morning talking to you, and about 12:30 in the morning he's texting me, and I'm like, "Don't you have practice in the morning?" He goes, "Yes, I do," but he's excited, you know. The talk was basically, Mom, you can win this thing. Wow, y'all's game was impressive. And then the talk turned to the Naismith Hall of Fame this summer and how he just wishes that the Cardinals would give him a day or two to go to that. And I think he especially got excited when I told him Michael Jordan was supposed to be there and do a tribute to Kobe. So it was that kind of conversation at 12:30 a.m.
Can you tell me about the class? I know that when talking to you within the season that you're fully focused on your group in basketball, but you were named to the 2020 Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in a class that I believe will probably go down as maybe the best. It's in the discussion as the best ever collective group going in together. With you being a headliner there, how humbling was that to get that call, that experience? What was that like?
Well, let me tell you quickly, I'm not a headliner. When you go in a class with Kobe and obviously the tragedy of what has happened to him, and it's so recent, and then Kevin Garnett and, Tim that played with the Spurs, those three could go in alone and it'd be a sellout. But obviously it's been postponed. It was supposed to have been a year ago, and because it is in the Massachusetts Springfield area, and then they're now moving it to the Mohegan Sun Casino and Resort in Connecticut. They're very strict there with their COVID protocols, but nonetheless, it's supposed to happen the weekend of the 14th through the 16th of May, and there'll be a beautiful contingency and a large group from Baylor, and then, of course, my family and friends. So it's humbling. It's not something that you sit down as a coach and say, my goal, man, is to get to the Hall of Fame. Heck no. My goal was just to have a winning program at Baylor when I got there, and then to win conference championships, and then maybe make a little run at national championships. And, boy, have I been blessed. I'll tell you, I've coached some of the greatest players, and you don't get there as a coach, guys, without great players. And every one of them that I coach have graduated. There's not one player that finished her eligibility in a Baylor uniform that has not gotten her Baylor degree. And that means a great deal to you.
Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Tamika Catchings, Eddie Sutton, Rudy Tomjanovich, Barbara Stevens, and Kim Mulkey are all going in and all finalists for the 2020 Naismith Hall of Fame class. I mean, you say that class out loud and the list of accomplishments, you could write novels, books. Coach, 21 years into this thing, is the experience as cool as it was the first time?
Well, this year's experience is very different than any I've ever experienced for obvious reasons. But it's just, you're just excited and you're happy when you see a basketball team that pulls for each other, and that those kids that were on the last national championship team are playing as hard as they did to win the last one. And then they look at their teammates who have never experienced it, those freshmen, they're doing it for the first time, and that we're winning games by enough margin that the young ones can play and gain experience, so that when those seniors leave and graduate, it's their turn to shine. And that's what makes it exciting for me.
You are the best. We appreciate you sparing some time for us here after a successful night for your Lady Bears last night. Good luck on the rest of the on the run here, and South Louisiana is behind you.
You got it, big guy. Go eat some Italian food for me,
Yes,
and the rest of you go eat some crawfish. I'm jealous. Take care.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go get them. There she is, Kim Mulkey, checking in from San Antonio this morning. As
I want to hear more about her baseball days. I bet that she's got some stories.
She is.
I want to know the whole
we got to link up with her.
Nobody wants to hear all that.
Yeah, but we're going to get with her after the season.
Yeah, that'd be
and
cool.
just get her to storytell.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Because she is a phenomenal storyteller, and some of those stories about those days when she was coming up on Little League fields in South Louisiana, and dads and parents couldn't stand that she was the best one on the field, and like she just kind of gave a peek into there. It got so bad they wouldn't even let her sit in the dugout.
Yeah, I got to know about
that.
You know
what I mean? Like,
she's got basketball in the brain for sure, but I got to know more about that later.
It was just she was incredible to see play. I mean, she was a phenomenal athlete. We are brought to you daily here by Edward Jones. Remember, over at Edward Jones, Daniel Newman, daniel.newman@edwardjones.com is how you get in touch with our guy. He's our financial advisor. He helps us out with all things going on in the financial world, whether it's investments, 401k. We rolled our 401k over with Daniel Newman over at Edward Jones, and it's been fantastic and been very easy, just like he promised on that first meeting that we had at Stabs out in Central, because his office is located just right across the street, really. I mean, it's just a walk across the road from Stabs in Central to Daniel Newman's office out there. And if you're heading into work this morning, heading into a plant, into the plants, and you got curiosity about what's going on with your finances, your life after work, your 401k, remember, Daniel Newman is an absolute expert when it comes down to it. Knows that stuff in that trade, that industry, and the financial world there very well. Get in touch with him this morning.
And he might take you to a Pelicans game.
Could take you to a Pelicans game.
No one took me to a Pelicans game last night, by the way. I know I teased that David maybe was going to surprise me last night. It clearly didn't happen.
No LeBron, no draw.
I know, but I still would have liked to have gone.
Yeah. But Zion, real quick, before we get to David Delucci, more history for Zion last night as the Pelicans pick up a nice win over the Lakers, 128-111.
Yeah.
Zion had 27 points and 9 rebounds, and the 20-year-old became the first NBA player younger than 21 to score at least 20 points in 21 straight games. I know those are a lot of numbers, but Zion continues to wow the NBA world.
20 years old
in the latest for him. All right, let's talk some SEC baseball with a Baton Rouge native.
The one that got away.
Yes, the one that got away. A beautiful human being as well.
He is.
David Delucci, good morning.
Good morning.
We are live, sir. It's great to have you on the new show, man.
Awesome.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for having me.
SEC baseball, what a wild and wacky run this has kind of been to get here. There was no sport affected more than college baseball, right, Dave? I mean, when you look back over the last 365 days, this sport, in my opinion, has really affected more than anyone. The 2 weeks last season that you play before being suspended, no off-season, fall ball being all out of whack. What have you made to college baseball just to get to this point?
Well, it's been sorely missed, and you talked about last year as a fan of the SEC and living in the South. College baseball season ended at the very beginning of conference play, I remember Ole Miss was going to start the conference against LSU. Emerson Hancock was going to be a high first rounder for Georgia. He was going to face Tommy Mace. I mean, we had these huge matchups that everyone was looking forward to, and then all of a sudden it ended abruptly. Combine that with a very, very short draft of only 5 rounds, and then come back to this year, and you've got a plethora of teams that are absolutely loaded. The rosters have been expanded. Talent is better than it's ever been in college baseball, and everyone's looking forward to a very competitive year. It's a much-needed sport that everyone needs. They love to get out at the ballparks during the spring and the summer. It's beautiful weather. It's a father-son type ball game that you sit and relax in the stands. And it's here, man. I mean, everybody's excited. The teams, especially in the Southeastern Conference right now, the top 5 teams in the country are SEC teams. So we're ready to rock and roll. It's been too long, and finally it's come back around.
Absolutely. Amen. And when we looked at the preseason rankings, LSU was up in the mix in the top 10, but like you just said, everybody in front of them was not only SEC teams, they felt like SEC West teams. The conference up to this point. I mean, Dave, how good is it?
It's unbelievable. I think it's the best it's ever been. I had the opportunity to announce the South Carolina game last night, midweek game versus the Citadel, and we're looking at the upcoming matchups for South Carolina in conference play. And 7 of the 10 weekends up ahead for South Carolina are all ranked teams in the SEC, and the lowest ranked team that they're going to play is Tennessee. They're 12th in the country right now. South Carolina is 25th. I think that's a little lower than where they should be, but this is a season where even Alabama, if you think of Alabama teams in the past, they really haven't had much talent. Alabama, I'm predicting when it's all said and done, is going to make the postseason, and they're a top 25 caliber team. So you cannot miss a step if you're a team in the SEC, because someone behind you is waiting in the wing to step ahead of you. And look, it doesn't look like in the SEC West, it doesn't look like anybody's going backwards this year.
LSU's storyline going in was that they were very comfortable with their arms, their frontline pitching, and had some question marks around their lineup. A couple of weeks into the season, they're leading the nation in home runs, but when they were tested by a frontline staff on Mississippi State, they were stymied a bit over the weekend. What did you make of the 3-game set between the Bulldogs and the Tigers last weekend at the Box?
Well, I think it's difficult to judge LSU off of the first weekend of conference play. Add to that the fact that Mississippi State probably has one of the top pitching rotations in the country. We saw Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. That 1-2 punch is number one. Leiter threw a no-hitter against South Carolina. But Mississippi State, number 1, number 2, and number 3, their Sunday starter, combine those 3 guys. It is really, really strong, and it's a very good offense. So I don't know if it's fair to judge a team off of the number 3 team in the country in the opening weekend. I look at LSU. They have a lot of talent. It's a lot of young talent on offense. Oftentimes, freshmen, once they run that gauntlet of the SEC, they don't perform like they did early on in the year in non-conference play. So that's a big concern to me. Jaden Hill, I know everyone's got a lot of question marks. He got hit up pretty hard by Oral Roberts, and then Mississippi State came in, and I think he had 7 unearned runs or 6 unearned runs in his start. I think he'll bounce back. I think the talent's there. It may be more of a confidence thing than anything else. But for me, what I would have question marks would be the young team. How are they going to handle the rigors of 10 weeks of 10 weekends of baseball team that is better than they've ever seen? This is a grown man's league with top line pitchers that are going to be first round draft picks from top to bottom. That's what I'm looking for.
Dylan Cruz is one of those guys that looks like he should not be in college baseball, and is probably a kind of a fallback from that 5-round draft that you mentioned. What have you made of the freshman and the way that you've seen him swing the bat here early on?
I think he's a tremendous hitter, man. Tyler Moore, former catcher at LSU, and I talked quite a bit about the team and the individuals on the team. And Tyler made a great comparison. Not saying that he is the next Mike Trout, but there's a lot of fundamentals in his swing and how he gets to the ball and drives the ball from his lower half that resembles a lot of things that Mike Trout does. Very fun player, extremely strong lower half, covers the plate really well. He's a fun guy. You know, I like these guys that are kind of they just go out there and they're gamers, man. Yeah. They're dirt dogs that are going to go out there and dive and slide and nothing flashy, but he gets the job done and a future big time player in college and at the next level.
This may be an unfair question because of what we've talked about with the conference, but up to this point, who's the best? What's the best you've seen?
As far as
team.
what?
The team, yeah.
On LSU's team?
No. Overall in the conference. I mean,
in the conference.
Arkansas is up there. Ole Miss is up there. I mean, you mentioned Alabama, Florida, Vanderbilt. I mean, who is the best that you've seen up to this point?
Man, I'd say I predict that the SEC is going to shuffle back and forth. We've seen Florida at number one. We've seen Ole Miss at number one. Now Vanderbilt's at number one. We may see Mississippi State move up to number. They're just going to beat each other up through the course of the year. Overall, there is no question that the Kumar Rocker Jack Leiter 1-2 punch is the best in baseball. It's not even close. It reminds me of a Cole Bauer in the UCLA days. Yeah. They are the top two pitchers. Kumar threw a no-hitter in the Super Regional against Duke. Jack Leiter threw a no-hitter against a very powerful South Carolina offense. And if Vanderbilt generates any offensive production behind those two guys, you can book it. They're going to win series. And that's the key in the SEC is you got to win 2 out of 3. Sweeps or a bonus, but win 2 out of 3. And the only reason, barring an injury, that Vanderbilt doesn't get those guys to get wins is if they miss the bus. As long as they're getting on the bus and getting to the field, I'm talking 2 wins after the.
Coach, that's when you back the bus up to go get them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. You make sure you don't leave the hotel until you say Leiter here, Rocker here. Then you can leave the hotel.
Start that bus. Get that bus moving. That's right. David Delucci checking in from the SEC Network this morning as Luch, a Baton Rouge native and one of the great voices and faces within college baseball. Tennessee's one of those teams that has seen a resurgence since like the SEC Network and teams like Mississippi State and LSU put so many resources in that sport. LSU's making the travel up to Knoxville this weekend. What is it about Rocky Top that people should know to look out for?
This is a team that over the last 2 years has really, really come on strong. I mean, we think about the Tennessee program years ago when I was playing in the mid-'90s, and they were a powerhouse. They were going to the College World Series. They had guys like J.P. Arancibia and Todd Helton and R.A. Dickey. I mean, these guys were good. Coach Tony Vitello over the last 3 years has brought in a group that has just been hungry for baseball. They have frontline pitchers, just tremendous offense, and it's a team that plays together. Luke Lipschitz, Jake Rucker, these are first-round guys, and we don't think of Tennessee as having those kind of standouts. Redmond Walsh, the pitching staff, has a lot of velocity coming out of the bullpen. So don't sleep on Tennessee. Tennessee is a regional team. You're going up to Knoxville. They play very well at home, and they're ranked number 12 in the nation. So they're finally getting some props for what they're doing out there. I think it's going to be a good series, a good test for LSU to go away from the box and see how they compete with a top 15 ranked team in the country.
An SEC legend, a World Series champion, and something you may not know, one of the best safeties to ever come out of Baton Rouge was a headhunter back there at Catholic High. Great to talk to you, Luch. Let's talk again soon, man.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jordy. Thanks for having me.
All right, there he is, David Delucci checking in from the SEC Network.
Were y'all inducted into the Italian-American Hall of Fame at the same time?
I was not, but we were not. I'm usually the MC of that event.
Yeah.
Luch would definitely be a recipient of somebody that if he's not already been on the list.
2011.
He's in.
Yeah,
he's in the
was,
Italian Sports
That's
Hall.
what
Okay,
I
I
was
was about to
asking,
say. That's low-hanging fruit for the Italian Sports Hall of Fame. They're just looking for anybody with a last name that ends in a vowel. And if you've caught a pass, hit a ball, made a shot, you're in. You know what I mean? Like, get them in. Culotta, can you MC it? I'm in.
All-time baseball name, too. Nickname, Luch. I mean, you had no choice but to play ball.
Isn't it, Luch?
Come on, Lucci.
But coming out, I'm telling you, he had football and baseball scholarships. And like we said, when Skip Bertman was hand-picking his roster for LSU baseball, and this is back in the days with no scholarship limitations. So Skip was just like Bear Bryant. You know what I mean? Like, he was just hiding them out. You know what I mean? He had guys like on the training staff where people were showing up like, who the hell is that? That's Tiger Blackwell, who played at Woodlawn. He's a pro. He's a premier pro. Like, damn. David Delucci straight up told Skip, "Nah, man, I'm going to Ole Miss." And that was crazy. I mean,
Is that just one of those grew up in Baton Rouge, wants to get out?
I think so. Yeah, we'll get him to tell the story one day. But yeah, I think that was the story on Luch getting out of Baton Rouge, because I mean, it made so much sense. Like, how's this guy not going to go to LSU? You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be the starting center fielder on a couple of national championship winning teams from his hometown, and then go play. I believe he played 12 years in the show. Won a championship with the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
In fact, he won a championship on that 2001 team with Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling.
Oh, speaking of Randy Johnson, do you know what today is? It's the 20th anniversary of Randy Johnson hitting the bird with the pitch.
Is that really today?
Wow. 20 years ago today. March 24th, 2001.
20 years ago
that
is when
bird.
that happened. That poor bird, bro.
Got
It exploded.
It
exploded.
Oh, I wish we had
I'm
that
watching the video right now.
Can we play that?
I have it. It's in the document.
It's in the document. Will we get hit up on it on a copyright issue? Yeah, we'll see. We'll take our chances. It's right here. All right.
Right.
But that was explode. That is maybe. That's got to be in the discussion as craziest, like, craziest thing caught during a live event.
Top 2 craziest sport, like, just freak accident.
Freak
ever.
accident.
Not like injury, but like
craziest
thing.
Well, it wasn't
the guy
injury for
blew
the
up a bird.
Yeah, I mean, like, but the likelihood of hitting with an MLB level pitcher, hitting a bird that's flying on the same plane as the ball is, where the ball's only like this big. I mean, that's just the most unlikely thing that you could ever imagine happening.
Karma, that bird was doing some shady, sketchy, weird, crazy stuff, bro.
I was about to say that bird had to already be a little scared. It's like, dude, I'm a little low. What's going on? I'm going across.
Like, just flying out of somewhere where I shouldn't be, just kind of ducking out. Next thing you know, boom! Here comes a 102-mile-an-hour fastball right to your dome.
He never knew what was coming.
Daily, we're brought to you by Relief Telemed. Remember, Relief is the best way and the only way to get your health care in 2021. In your home or on site, Relief is changing how health care is delivered. No more doctor's offices, no more waiting rooms, health care in the comfort of your own home. The process is easy. Download the application today. Log on to Apple, Google, App Stores, wherever you are, and download the app, Relief Health. Once you get connected to a local doctor in your community, or you just order a test directly without talking to a doctor. Your COVID test is live right now if you want to log on and download the app. They also have a vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, over at Relief. Relief Health is the app that you download inside of your Apple and Google app stores today. Find out more about Relief Health by downloading the app. And remember, they can come to you. It is changing the way healthcare is done in 2021. Find out for yourself today by downloading the app over at Apple and Google. You got food questions? Get them in now, as we will answer them with the chef Jean Paul Bourgeois coming up here in just mere minutes. Whatever your questions are about food, get them inside the bunker. We will make sure and ask them to our in-house chef here. Next on the Jordy Culotta Show, brought to you every day by Go Chevrolet. Chevrolet is under new management, but it's the same old familiar names that you know here from the area. Lee Carney and Nick Richard are up and running in LaPlace, Louisiana, and they want you to stop in today. But if you can't, they'll make it easy for you. They'll come to you. Log online to GoChevrolet.com. That's GEAUX Chevrolet.com. Go Chevrolet is conveniently located on Airline Highway in LaPlace, Louisiana. Shop all the inventory, whether it's new or pre-owned, at GoChevrolet.com. That's GEAUX Chevrolet.com. Dr. James Johnson and Dr. Chad Spillers of Johnson and Spillers Dentistry, with 2 locations, one in Gonzales and one in Baton Rouge between Segan Lane and Bluebonnet, offer everything from ceramic crowns to pediatric dentistry, dental cleanings, Botox, extractions. They're online at johnsonspillers.com. Located in Gonzales and in Baton Rouge, seeing both new patients and existing patients, log online to johnsonspillers.com.
If you missed the show, you can always check out our podcast, brought to you by RMB Builders, on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you can listen to podcasts.
How confident do you feel about your streaming service? Do you know if you have the right gear or not? Is Facebook and YouTube consistently letting you down? I now present to you WSN Live. WSN can help your church, your team, your community bring everyone together for one streaming service where there's no more equipment guessing, broadcasts that your audience will absolutely love, and a support team that you will have around the clock. WSN Live. Can you be assured that the air and surfaces in your home are clean, sanitized, and safe for you and your entire family? You can now by logging on to valera.com/Jordy Culotta, where you, your home, your office, your family can be protected 24/7 with active pure technology. This NASA-based science has proven 99.9% reduction of airborne SARS-2 and COVID-19 virus in just 3 minutes. Log on now to valera.com/Jordy Culotta.
Have a late night and can't make it for the Jordy Culotta Show at 7 a.m.? No worries. Catch us on demand on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet. Appreciate David Delucci. Appreciate Coach Kim Mulkey for stopping by. And the doctor, Kent Lowe, early on in hour one.
Well, thanks for having me, Jordy. It really was a blast.
Giving some information on LSU basketball and the season coming to a conclusion a couple of nights ago. And also Circle Bowl closing their doors after 62 years in service. I say we make a JC show, a Jordy Culotta Show field trip.
I know who's going to come.
That'd be a lot of fun.
I didn't grow up here, so I don't have any stories.
That's
but
fine.
I've heard a lot.
Fine.
I've heard a lot.
We're just going to try to break the mental barrier you have to the lanes.
Yes. Oh God.
See if we can't go.
We gotta stream that.
Yeah.
We gotta Facebook.
I mean,
Live
that's
that.
serious.
Mark at 8, Kate.
I haven't bowled since the Bulldog Bowling League, and I got kicked off. So
You've seen The Big Lebowski, right?
Yes.
Best bowling movie is Big Lebowski, or is it?
I don't know if there's much.
No. What about Ernie McCracken? Yeah, Kingpin. I mean,
Kingpin,
Bill Murray.
Big Lebowski.
That's more bowling centric.
When you think of bowling in movies, that's the first thing that comes,
Yes.
instantly.
I'm feeling nervous just thinking about going to.
Have you ever thought about going left-handed?
No.
Just switch it up. You just go completely. You got to do something. I mean, speaking of sports movies, Caddyshack. I mean, you got the shanks, dude. You got to switch it up.
Yeah.
Put your hat on
pressure's
backwards.
going up just thinking about it. Y'all don't know if I'm ready.
You sweating?
A little bit.
All right, the chef is he's handling some business this morning. He's on a call. It's all good with us, man. Handle your business.
Handle your business.
Handle your
we could talk about Deshaun, I guess, again while we're waiting.
What's it? You got the latest on J-Lo and
I
A-Rod?
don't have a Baylor update. I'll get to that.
Sounds like it's going to blow up.
It definitely is. If you're staying together for your kids, we already decided that.
And to admit it publicly.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that was an inside
think
source
about everybody
close to
out
them.
there that's listening to this show right now that is in your relationship and staying married because of your kids. You've never said that out loud, right?
I think plenty of people have said that out loud.
I mean,
Like
not
enough
to where they can hear it.
enough publicly where the kids could find it?
No.
I mean, like those kids,
No.
you've got to imagine are internet savvy enough to say, hey, look, mom and dad are admitted to the public that are staying together for us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You definitely, within the confines of your own bedroom, bathroom, wherever you do your private conversing with your your mate is, saying like, look, I'm only hanging out here because of the kids. All right? I hate you. I am staying because of the kids.
That conversation they get to have in a separate house.
Yeah.
The only latest is they're putting the work in. Save it. I mean, when you got a bunch of articles saying you're putting the work in, you know it's like
physical.
Yeah.
How long have they been together?
I don't know.
I mean, I'd say the physical's gone too, bro. I mean, like,
it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, I mean, if they're doing public kisses and saying out loud that they're staying together for the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was just the physical, they can come out and
spice
say.
this thing back up.
Yeah,
they can spice it back up.
All right, what's going on with Deshaun Watson?
16 lawsuits now.
Bad transition, bro. Transition's not my strong suit.
It is not.
Golly, man. I mean, it's just, and that was unintended. Yeah. Unintended. And I just kind of always unintentionally get there. Deshaun Watson is at 16. 16 lawsuits, but we did hear from Deshaun's representation for the first time, right?
About someone wanting to be paid?
Yes.
$30,000.
Deshaun says that Deshaun's lawyer says that this smells like blackmail, and that they believe it is blackmail.
Why are you blackmailing for $30,000?
What's your number?
If I'm blackmailing, over $1 million.
Absolutely over $1 million.
Over $1 million.
What are you going to get for $30,000?
First off, to me, blackmail is got to be a catch rate or to get away with blackmail. It's almost got to be the perfect scheme.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think you're getting away with that.
It seems like always blackmail comes and bites people in the ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So if I am going to be in the equation of proposing, is it a blackmail? I mean, I don't know what is if I'm proposing blackmail. I'm shooting for the stars because in the back of my head I'm thinking I'm probably going to get caught. You know what I mean? So you know what? More than $1 million, $1 million plus.
So it seems shady to ask for 30,000.
Yeah, I mean,
30,000.
You're gonna get me caught for 30,000?
I mean, not that's a good chunk of money. I'm not
Lexus.
discounting that, but yeah, it is a used
I mean,
Lexus.
I want a brand new one. You know what I mean? At least give me 150.
I mean, that's a year of tuition at a private school around here.
Is it?
Close.
So Deshaun Watson's lawyer, Rusty Hardin, if you remember Hardin, he was Roger Clemens' lawyer back in the day when they were dealing with the performance enhancing drugs, the PED stuff. But Watson's lawyer, Rusty Hardin, came out and said in a statement that his law firm has strong evidence showing that one of the lawsuits alleging sexual assault is false and that it calls into question the legitimacy of the other cases as well. Hardin added that he believes any allegation that Deshaun forced a woman to commit a sexual act is completely false.
And he also said he's asked for their names confidentially,
which
so they can investigate, and they're not giving them to him.
Isn't that's kind of weird? When I read that, I thought, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, what doesn't? Did he ask, or they're not giving out the names?
That the defense is not giving the legal representation for Watson.
It's very strange.
The names.
Yeah, you have to go through the discovery process.
Yeah.
And find out because you've developed your side of the argument.
Yeah, but doesn't both sides share evidence? Like, hey, look, this is what I got on you. You can you can prepare to defend this.
Yeah.
And if you can't find any, then that's an issue.
Right. So I mean, if you've got 16 lawsuits pending, and by no means am I saying that these are not legitimate.
No, we're not saying that at all.
I just think that it would be very easy if you had 16 pending to say privately who it is. I'm not saying to publicly release these people's
but between
names.
attorneys.
But
that's
I mean,
normal.
attorney to attorney confidentiality. I mean, like, who's accusing me? And for those to be withheld, I just thought when I read it, that's weird. That's strange.
It is weird.
I mean, that's just a little strange.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I mean, like, the number growing with Watson is gotta be concerning. I mean, like, it's just at one point I did believe that this was maybe a money grab.
Yeah.
Or maybe this was some type of I wasn't even out of question thinking like that the Houston Texans were trying to do some weird, crazy business stuff.
But I've been watching like Billions and stuff like that.
Right,
so
stuff like that. Stuff like that.
Internal shady move, like we can leak this.
But when you've got numbers and the stories are all similar, I mean, there's just a lot. There's just too much smoke.
It's a lot to orchestrate.
It's just too much smoke. I agree. It's just a lot to orchestrate, and the more this thing goes on, it seems like Deshaun Watson and the NFL are not going to vibe in 2021. I'm not saying that he's guilty. I'm not saying that he's innocent, but I'm just going off of what the NFL has done in similar situations like this, and they aren't waiting on the court of law. They're not waiting on the discovery. They're not waiting on any of that stuff. They've got their own gavel in their big Manhattan office, and they're going to slam it on whatever side of the aisle they feel like they need to. And nobody can really step up and defend that. Not even Jerry Jones. If Jerry Jones can't prohibit the NFL executive office from acting, who in the hell can? I can guarantee it's not Bob McNair with Houston.
Nobody wants to
I mean, I think they're trying to force this guy out.
Can we touch on another weird story? I realized y'all put in the document about the man discovering shrimp tails and Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yes.
Our girl Brooke Joffrion sent me a text that the guy is married to Topanga.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
Corey?
The kind of bigger picture tweet was a man named Carp married to a woman named Fischel found shrimp tails in a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
What?
The cereal was purchased from the Costco on Topanga Canyon Boulevard, and his wife played Topanga in Boy Meets World.
That's crazy. That's weird.
Meanwhile, Carp used to be a guest on the Pistol Shrimp podcast.
That is Randy Johnson blowing up a bird with a baseball type stuff.
Odds. What are the odds of everything in that tweet happening? What are the odds of all that?
That is amazing.
I didn't know that. I saw this in the story. I didn't know till Brooke texted the correlation there with Topanga.
That is wild.
But you got it from the Costco on Topanga Canyon Boulevard. Like, what
That's
are the
so weird.
And you used to be a guest on a podcast that had the word shrimp in it, and your name is Carp.
Something's up with that, right?
Yeah.
And your wife's name is Fischel.
That's a setup.
Yeah, that's too much.
That's a setup.
That's too much.
Wait, so what are the details? Like,
so there's pictures on Twitter.
I'm not buying it.
But it's like,
I know, it's hard to.
This dude bought a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, right? And he found shrimp tails in it.
But they look like legitimate shrimp tails.
They are shrimp tails. Like, they're absolutely shrimp tails. And then he has more pictures of it that come out. There's like a string in there. There's like looks like a fried pea or something. There's like black specks in
dental floss too. He said he found dental floss.
Oh yeah, like some kind of string. And then he thinks there's some, I don't know, this is speculation, but in the comments they're like the black specks on the cereal would probably be like rat droppings.
Oh,
what?
My God.
And they said that
say what?
That there have been like accounts of rats getting into like dry storage of like,
oh man, what a
like
field
cereals.
day for a rat, dude. A whole bunch of cereal.
Cinnamon Crunch?
That's
Cinnamon
all-time
Toast
cereal.
Crunch? I mean,
don't come at me, Cinnamon Toast
Bros.
Crunch. I'm not. This is just allegedly.
Jackpot!
I mean,
we found the whole thing. Bring everybody.
You gotta come to me.
Yes, they got shrimp and cinnamon over here.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch responded and said after further investigation, it appears that an accumulation of the cinnamon sugar that sometimes can occur when ingredients aren't thoroughly blended. There's no possibility of cross-contamination of the shrimp.
Yeah, well,
I mean, can you get the pictures up there?
But
there are shrimp.
The buildup of sugar, quote unquote, thing is like they're talking about something that's green. It looks like it's green, from what I saw.
Okay.
Yeah, the visuals on this thing is not.
Look.
I mean,
on the screen.
Those are shrimp tails.
That is
right?
100% a shrimp tail. I mean,
and a piece of string.
You know, yes, that is. I mean,
That's not an accumulation of cinnamon and sugar.
And are those what they are saying is the rat droppings in his palm?
Yeah.
Bro.
See,
I'm out, man.
I'm undeterred by this. I'm still going Cinnamon Toast
Again,
Crunch.
General Mills.
Really?
This is allegedly. This is not an attack on General Mills. Please do not come at us.
No, we're not attacking.
I'll go toe-to-toe with Big Cereal.
Yes.
Do it.
Bring them on.
Do it.
Andrew Messina says, have I missed Jordy talking about F. King Alexander resigning this week? No, you have not. Non-surprising story for us over here at the Jordy Culotta Show. As we said early on, if you watched some of the backlash that F. King Alexander was dealing with during that board of directors hearing, it was very evident there. He ain't going to make it.
He already resigned, didn't he?
Yeah, he resigned.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about like during the actual meeting over a week ago. I mean, you could hear the tone, the tenor, everybody's body language. I mean, this guy is dead man walking.
The pitchforks and fire were out.
Yes, they were after his ass, man. And rightfully so. I mean, rightfully so. And the comments that F. King Alexander made towards the state of Louisiana and to LSU while he was in CYA mode up there, screw off, bro. You know what I mean? A great big F you from the entire state of Louisiana with the thumb at you, too. On the way up. You want to shoot him one? You want to shoot him one?
No, I don't.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
no.
Shoot him one. This would be a great place to step in for the first time.
The first time I flick the bird is not going to be
Fly
on
your
YouTube.
bird towards F. King Alexander for the first time.
Just don't tell Randy.
There'll be someone better in my life to flick off.
Let it hit him right in the face as his comments towards the state and LSU while he's running the place. You know what I mean? While he's in charge of the place for 7 years, he's got the balls and the audacity to talk about how the place is run. Hey, president, it was your rules. It was your leadership that was making up all of jumping into people's pockets and playing the politics that you did for 7 seasons. I mean, Oliva came to you in 2013. Was there a possibility or a scenario 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, that anybody listening to this program was going to come across liking Joe Oliva? Right? Was there ever a scenario that exists? It didn't 3 weeks ago. Now you love the guy, right? Seeing what he proposed in 2013, taking to F. King's doorstep. Hey, man, let me save your ass. Let me save you, F. King. Get rid of this bum you got as a football coach. And even going back to that night when Joe Oliva walked into the Vanderbilt game, the night that they suspended Wade, the last regular season basketball game of 2017, 2.5 years ago. The most intense mob scene I have ever witnessed at a sporting event. We were talking off air during our break. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen live at a sporting event? We were going off of the Randy Johnson bird hitting by a baseball at 100 miles an hour, blowing up the bird. I mean, just think if you were there and saw that in person. Like, holy shit. But
imagine if you got a hot dog.
That scene, I'm sitting here thinking, like, you see the bird you blown up? What?
Weren't you at that game?
But I'm sitting here thinking of that question. Like, what's the craziest thing I've ever seen at a sporting event? And I'm sure it's out there. And it'll come to me. But maybe the answer is the scene before LSU and Vanderbilt tipped off in basketball 2.5 years ago when Oliva and F. King Alexander walked into the Maravich Center. Randy Lanois and I were sitting right next to each other in Lanois' seats, right behind the south goal, and Lanois was visibly nervous, like anxious, when these guys walked in and the mob scene hit them with Joe must go chants, fire Joe Oliva, F you Joe, raining down
bunch of bird flickings
from the customer
sure.
base. Yes. And the vile vitriol looks. Richard Lipsy was here a couple of weeks ago, was talking about being in the arena that night. His wife was sitting right behind Joe Oliva. I mean, the scene of Oliva walking to his seat and people mobbing, raining down on him with chants to get the hell out of there. And right before Oliva sits down, he is blushing. His face is red. He is sitting there just like kind of freaking out internally, I'd imagine, right?
Yes.
What's your internal monologue during that?
As soon as he sits down, he looks across the court, and it looks like he makes eye contact with F. King Alexander, and he gives him some type of movement, some type of representation of "I told you so." I told you, you moron. I told you, you idiot, that we were going to walk into a mob scene if we suspended our basketball coach. And going back on that, you can tell that it was F. King Alexander and the politicos that were really making that decision underneath. And Joe Oliva, who was the athletics director, really that fell on his desk. I mean, if the same situation happens today, I can guarantee you that Scott Woodward is not going to go to the interim president in Tom Galligan and ask him what we should do. Just in the same sense, F. King Alexander had no business bringing in his political mindset into a athletic issue. And Oliva looks at him, and my theory is he's telling F. King across the court, I told you so. I told you, man. I told you this was going to backfire on us. And Oliva got all the smoke. He got all the pushback, and he got rained down on. And he was the one that was kind of the sacrificial lamb in the whole thing, or the first one. But come to find out and come to look at really who F. King is. F. King showed you who he really was when his ass was on the line 3 weeks ago. You know, Oregon State, he was singing like a bird up there in Corvallis about what was going on in Baton Rouge and the people and throwing people under the bus, names, times, dates, yeah, just everything. I just thought that, you know, like F. King Alexander by no means at any point portrayed any type of leadership qualities that I would believe in. You may, if you were here at the time, but I just don't know what he did to give any confidence to the students, to the customers, to the politicals, to the administrators that made you believe that he had any idea who or what he was dealing with. He was so just unattached and unengaged to the true issues of what was going on. The Miles situation is a great is a great qualifier of that. I mean, this is happening under your own nose. He's driving around with students on campus after his boss told him not to do it. And they're bringing you these examples to your desk, and you're listening to somebody behind you tell you, no, don't do that. And I just thought that F. King Alexander was, I just thought he was a terrible leader. He was unattached from the state. He was a bad fit from the start. And over the last couple of weeks, he's shown you that. I mean, he's the true colors have come out, and his resignation was very non-surprising from this seat. The only surprising part was, for me, was that it went to April 1st. I thought it would be effective immediate.
I feel like a lot of people said April 1st. A lot of people predicted.
Oh, really?
April 1st.
Is Whitney here?
Yeah, she's here. Let's move into Women Crush Wednesday.
All right, WCW Women Crush Wednesday every week here on
Jordy Culotta Show.
On the Jordy Culotta Show.
Where are we again?
I'm reading some of this. I'm reading some of these feedbacks here, some of these
about
comments.
The Cinnamon Toast Crunch stuff too.
Yo,
what's up?
Hey. What's up? How are you?
Good.
Where are we?
Golly,
we
don't even know where we are anymore.
Remember, here on the Jordy Culotta Show, every single day we're brought to you by Phil's Oyster Bar. Stop in and see Phil's R&B Builders for your podcast. Always bringing that back here on the Jordy Culotta Show. So stop in and see R&B online at rnb-builders.com. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning, guys.
It is great to see you. Women Crush Wednesday. We had a great conversation with a former Women Crush Wednesday
She's one
winner.
of the best.
Great.
Oh
Kim
my
Mulkey.
gosh! I think
Kim
a
Mulkey
long
was
form interview
fantastic.
would be.
I have so many questions. I know.
Oh.
No one wants. I know everyone wants to talk about basketball, but I want to talk about other things with her, like baseball. Later.
She's the best. What's great sit down with Amy Just.
Yes.
She was fantastic. Give us some insight on how she story builds and fact finds and does all of her stuff. What's coming up on the Gridiron Show, and who's today's spotlight?
Yeah, so today we're spotlighting, actually you guys talked about it a little earlier with Coach Mulkey, Sedona Prince, the University of Oregon center, who actually was at the start of this whole conversation around the weight room situation down in San Antonio. So she was actually on TikTok, you know, the infamous social media buzz, and she actually posted the comparison picture between what was going down in Indianapolis versus what, you know, the 6 weights that they had in the women's room. And so we're spotlighting her today because, I mean, it takes some courage to put out there, you know, what you're seeing in your environment, what you feel is potentially a disparity. And until someone speaks up and says something, how's anybody going to make it better, right? So shout out to Sedona Prince of Oregon. She's actually only a sophomore, which really shocked me that she had the courage to get out there
and
speak out about it. And, of course, the NCAA made those changes. which is great that they were responsive to it. We want to see continuous improvement, right,
yes,
in what we're seeing for women all across the board. But coming up on the Gridiron Show on Monday, I can't believe, to be honest with you guys, that this will be episode 4.
Wow.
Like, it's already
a month
in. This has been an absolute blast for us. We've really enjoyed the conversations that we've had with some amazing women that just, are at the top of their game and who are doing great things. And in fact, on this coming Monday, one of an interesting topic for me as a mom of an athlete is around mental health. And I think we've seen a lot in professional sports, a lot more conversation around how important mental health is as a competitive advantage in the game. LeBron James talks about the amount of money that he spends on his body, on his mind, to be the best in the business. And so we have Dr. Lakeitha Poole, who's actually the director of sport and psychology and counseling for LSU Athletics. She is, it's like the content that she shares, the advice that she gives. If you've got a kid out there, if you're a parent of an athlete, if you're a student athlete yourself, if you want to be the best at anything that you're doing, this is going to be an interview you're going to want to listen to come Monday the 29th. So it'll drop on YouTube and on all streaming platforms.
The feedback has been great on what is going on with the Gridiron Show, whether it's out there on the streets and hearing feedback or being on the sales beat and listening to some of the people's reaction when we talk about it. What has been some of the highlights for you? What are some of the things that you've heard back?
The individual stories of people who have reached out and said, wow, I'm either so proud of you or I'm so excited that this conversation is happening. I think that we've all heard that women, and especially we're in Women's History Month for the rest of March, women play such an important role, whether you are the athlete on the field or you're the coach behind the bench or you're a supporter, an administrator, an executive, and having a platform for those stories to be told, but also to give a little bit of what the heck is a franchise tag? How many times do you hear people talk about a franchise tag? We will break those things down and give you the details in a way that's fun and familiar. And so those have been the moments that have really been impactful for me. The students at LSU that have reached out, the female students that are I've got an interest in being in sports journalism, being in sports media, who say, you give me hope. This platform has given me hope that there's a place for me with all of my passion and energy and excitement around the game. You're showing that there's a path that we can go down.
It's got to make you feel good.
Providing footsteps worth following,
Talk about Body by Bro.
Body by Bro Body, got to give him a shout out. Let me tell you something. And I'm not related. I continue to let people know. We're going to figure out their relationship. But they've been a great sponsor for us and helping us with some off-season gear. I wore a ton of it out in Phoenix while I was there over the last couple of days, which had a blast.
Yeah, that trip looked amazing.
Oh, it was some good stuff on top of some mountains, telling cancer where it can go. But big shout out at
flicking the bird.
And didn't want my mom to call me about posting it, so I, gave it a little emoji. But at Bro Body, you can find them at brobody.com. They've got some super cool, really nice fits that we've been sporting around, and really appreciate their support. So we're continuing to promote them and show them some love.
Always our women crush on Wednesday is Whitney Bro. She is the host of the Gridiron Show. She's here every Wednesday for WCW, but every Monday you can check out the latest episode of the podcast. The Gridiron Show, make sure you are subscribed and notified on their YouTube station so you know when content goes up, as that'll be every Monday, but there should be some more coming at certain times, and we'll make sure and keep you posted on that. They're all over Instagram. They're all over Twitter. They're all over social media, Facebook, wherever you're at. Find them there every Wednesday right here on the Jordy Culotta Show, and we are very proud of the of what the Gridiron Show is going through, and the growth and the impact that it is making on our community and people around the country. Thank you. Keep it up.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, there's Whitney checking in, and we'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.
Talk to Jean Paul tomorrow?
He's going to move till next week.
Okay.
I just bumped until next week. But we did get confirmation yesterday. We were talking about Mark Whitehead, who is the former director of officials with the SEC. We're going to talk to him tomorrow. He is going to be here tomorrow at 8:30, talking about officiating, talking about the state of officials, and some of the things that we just talked about yesterday in that industry, urging the youth to be involved. How can that happen? And Whitehead is a longtime official from Denham Springs, right here in Louisiana, and was heading up the SEC's officials organization that that Greg Sankey put into place just a couple of years ago. So looking forward to that conversation tomorrow. Come back with us, Jordy Culotta Show, presented every day by Go Chevrolet for the entire crew. We'll see you tomorrow. Whoa.